eventually we're going to have to know all of the notes on all the strings on the fretboard. But that could take a very long time. Some people spend years doing it. But if you know all of the notes on the low E string and you know all the notes on the A string, there's a couple of tricks that you can use to find notes that are down here on the D string or on the G string. Those tricks I was talking about to find notes further down the fretboard, or further up, I should say, on the higher strings, is, so for instance, on the E string, if you know that the third fret of the low E is a G note, and if you go over 2 frets from the G, you go over to the A, and then you go down 2 strings, okay? So we're at the 5th fret, and we are on the 4th string, which is the D. That's also a G note. And that pretty much is the same all the way up the fretboard. So for instance, if you're here on the 8th fret and you're playing a C, and then you go over 2 frets and then up 2 strings, so that's our C. And we can locate our root note, or whatever note you're looking at. But usually we're looking at root notes on the D string by just knowing everything on the low E string. And another benefit is if you happen to know all of the notes on the low E string, the high E string is exactly the same. That's a G, that's a G, that's a B, and that's a B. So if you know the low E string, you know the high E string, you've essentially got 2 for 1, okay? And then on the A string, that exact same rule applies. So if you're on the A string and you apply that same rule that we apply, if you're on the A string and you apply the same rule that we apply to the low E, let's go to the 5th fret, that's a D. And then if we go 2 frets over and then 2 strings down, and that works the same anywhere on the fretboard. If we know all of the notes on the low E and the A string, then we can pretty much quickly find the notes on the D and on the G. And that becomes really helpful when you're playing triads, especially if they're rooted on the D or the G.